Something huge is happening across the United Kingdom right now. It's not just an upgrade, it's a fundamental rewiring of the entire country's industrial and digital backbone. And it's going to define the future for decades to come.
So you hear about artificial intelligence, right, and the big shift to electric cars and this massive push for green energy. You probably think of them as three separate, powerful trends. But the key thing to understand is that they're not separate at all. In fact, they're deeply connected.
Because right here in the UK, these three megatrends are smashing into each other, creating what you can only describe as a perfect storm. It's a massive collision of multi-billion-pound projects, all desperately fighting for the exact same, very limited resource.
And look, this isn't some far-off sci-fi prediction. The data is pointing to a very specific moment in time when all these forces are set to intersect. And that year is 2026.
Okay, so to really get what's going on, we have to start with the sheer scale of the new demand for electricity. We're not talking about a small uptick here. This is a tsunami of new power requirements heading our way. This demand is exploding from three main areas, all hitting their peak at the same time. You've got the absolutely insatiable appetite of AI data centers, the city-level power needed for giant new battery gigafactories, and the enormous electrical load from green hydrogen projects. Let's just take AI for a second. The growth is just staggering. Data centers aren't just getting bigger anymore, they're getting denser. They're packing more and more power-hungry, heat-generating chips into the same space. And that means they need an exponential jump in electricity to both power them and, crucially, to cool them down.
Then you've got the industrial side of things. A perfect example is the new Tata Agratas gigafactory in Somerset. We're talking about a single investment of £4 billion, all to make sure the UK has a future in battery manufacturing. And to give you an idea of the scale, the main building is over 35% larger than Wembley Stadium. A facility this big doesn't just need a plug socket, it has the same electrical demand as a small city. And guess when it's scheduled to start production? You got it, 2026. So you have this unprecedented wave of demand building. But what happens when that wave crashes into the wall of our existing infrastructure? Well, you get a massive supply squeeze. It becomes a resource war, where the prize is literally the power to build the future.
Right now, the UK's grid is hitting what the industry is calling a power pinch point. The core hubs like London and the Slough Corridor, which happens to be Europe's biggest data center market, are basically full. There's an acute shortage of power. So you want to build a new facility and get a high-voltage connection? Sure, get in line. The queue could be up to a decade long.
This shortage is literally redrawing the country's industrial map. As you can see, London is critically constrained, so investment has to go elsewhere. That means markets like Manchester, which have some available headroom, are seeing explosive growth. And emerging hubs like Newcastle, with high potential because they're near renewable energy, are becoming the strategic new locations for future AI factories. Now, the response to this crisis is nothing short of monumental. It's called the Great Grid Upgrade. We're talking about a £30 billion investment by the National Grid. This is the biggest overhaul of the UK's transmission network in generations, all designed to build the capacity we desperately need.
But here's the catch. You can't just throw money at this problem. It isn't just about steel and cable. It's about people. There's a critical human bottleneck. All of these huge projects, the data centers, the gigafactories, and the grid upgrade itself, are all competing for the exact same, very small pool of high-voltage electrical engineers. It has become a full-blown war for talent.
Okay, so we've got a massive demand surge meeting a supply squeeze on both power and people. But there's a third pressure point we have to talk about. The business and legal environment is getting much tougher. The financial risks for the companies building all this are just escalating like crazy. A key idea here is something called disallowed cost. Now, it might sound dry, but it's a huge deal. Under the modern contracts used for these massive projects, if a contractor fails to follow the administrative rules to the letter, like, say, they forget to get the right approval for a supplier, the client can just turn around and refuse to pay for that work. A simple paperwork mistake can suddenly cost millions of pounds. To survive in this new world, you need extreme discipline. Minor admin issues have become major financial landmines. If your records are incomplete, the rule is brutally simple. No record, no payment. If you fail to give an early warning about a potential problem, any extra costs that come from that delay, they can be disallowed. It's on you. And on top of those financial risks, there's a whole new regulatory world. born out of the tragedy at Grenfell Tower. It's called the Golden Thread. This requires a single, secure, digital record of all of a building's safety information, from the very first design all the way through its entire life. The days of handing over a stack of papers at the end of a job are over. This is a live, continuous digital responsibility.
So what does this actually mean on a construction site? Well, it means every single time an electrical cable passes through a fire-rated wall, that's not just a hole to be sealed. It's a digital data point that has to be captured. You need a geotagged photo, you need to log the specific fire-stopping material you used, and you need the credentials of the person who installed it. Your digital integrity is now just as commercially vital as your physical work.
So let's pull this all together. You have this perfect storm of massive demand, constrained supply, and hardening risk. What that creates is a new era of profound complexity. And in this new era, the very definition of what's valuable is being completely rewritten.
You see, success isn't just about being on time and on budget anymore. The new pillars of value are totally different. First, there's time to power. Forget location, location, location. Your ability to secure a grid connection is now way more valuable than the land itself. Second is operational resilience, building things that can actually handle the intense heat from AI chips and our changing climate. And third, commercial defensibility, having the know-how to navigate these incredibly complex contracts and actually protect your profits. Ultimately, when you boil it all down, the message is this: the opportunities in rewiring Britain are absolutely immense. The scale of this investment is something we'll see once in a generation. But, and this is a huge but, these opportunities are not for everyone. They're reserved for those who can truly master this new, incredibly complex electrical ecosystem. Which leaves us with a final critical question. Britain is undergoing this massive electrical transformation to power its future in AI, green transport, and clean energy. But is the industry that actually has to build it truly ready for the shock?